what's up? Sinisa, Super Bad Estrada here, and I just want to give a huge special shout out to the Relay. Thank you so much for all of the continuous support, and thank you for all of the support during and after and before every single fight.
Welcome to the motherfucking Relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Is that Natasha turned the fight down, and the ball was in our court. I believe that everything was in it for her to take the fight. She spoke about it, and Joe Gallagher talked about it. And when push comes to shove, she didn't want to explore the possibility. So there's 100 ways to say. I know I'm quoting a lot of people today, but I believe Don King used to say there's many ways to say no and only one way to say yes. So I believe she's found several different ways to say no.
Unified junior middleweight champion Natasha Jonás herself responded to Dmitry Salita's comments by saying Dmitry has championed for and with Clarissa Shields for better pay, has boasted about 7-figure paydays. Yes, an offer was made and it was rejected. I'm the champ. If he would like to improve that offer, the fight happens. There's only one thing stopping it from being made, and that's not in my hands. We still don't know what exactly it is that Dmitry Salita's offering Natasha Jonás. Is he offering her a fight in America? Has he found a broadcaster here stateside that's willing to bankroll the fight for a certain price? And if so, for how much? Because Natasha Jonás herself, she's not strapped for cash. I'm just bouncing ideas around. I'm just wondering, what exactly did Dmitry offer Natasha? Is it a fight in America, or is it a fight in the UK? If it's in the UK, then we know who's paying for the fight. It'll be Sky Sports and Boxer in the United Kingdom. And if it's in the United Kingdom, well, it's their money, not Dmitry's. Still a lot left to the imagination when it comes to this quote-unquote offer. Though as you can imagine, this news breaking has elicited several reactions. Adverse ones. A Twitter user that goes by the name Listos Pelos Chungasos stated, "You're such a drama queen. Holy mother of God, you're not as big as you think you are. This is the second time you're ducking somebody." Tasha didn't like that. She responded by saying, "The last time I rejected an offer and knew my worth, I ended up a world champion within 2 fights and a unified champion within 4. So I don't regret that decision either. Thank you for your concern on my career decisions, though." I have to admit that I agree with Natasha Jonás. To some extent, I do. The decision to migrate from Matchroom over to Boxer is what put her on the path that saw her become the junior middleweight division's unified champion. It was a smart move, a savvy move, and it paid off. I think Tasha felt that at Matchroom she was just being treated and used like an opponent as opposed to a fighter that they have some investment in. Thus, she changed her decorum, and it all worked out. In the end, it did. Though here and now, there is a question as to what she's going to do moving forward, because if things aren't working out with Clarissa, and you're not interested in running it back with Terry Harper, who are you going to fight? That is a legitimate question that you can ask without condoning or condemning, without taking a stance. If you're not fighting Clarissa, you're not interested in Terry, what are you going to do? Who are you going to fight? Who's next? We're approximately 2-3 months into this year. No idea what's next for Natasha Jonás, and she's got 3 alphabet titles. And you know, when it comes to Clarissa, it's pretty much the same deal. She's an undisputed champion at middleweight. She's coming off a career-best win over Savannah Marshall, but what now? I'm really not an advocate for this fight between Clarissa and Natasha. I've said it many times before, I'll say it again. I think it's too much for Natasha. I think it's a mismatch, but beyond that, outside of fighting Natasha at 154 pounds, what are Clarissa's other options? She doesn't want to go back to the UK for Savannah Marshall. She is insistent that the fight has to happen in America, but what, in terms of an offer, have they made to Savannah to come to America? Dmitry seems to have formulated some kind of offer for Natasha. Does he have a similar offer for Savannah? What about Raquel Miller? She's supposed to be in action this weekend if she wins. Can Dmitry Salita formulate an offer for her the same way he claims he's formulated an offer for Natasha? It's a good fight. They've got history. Clarissa Shields is the most dominant force anywhere at or around these weights. I don't think anybody can deny that. The problem is that there aren't much girls to go around at or around those weights, so she's got a unique problem that is unique to these divisions. Unique unto her. Not that long ago, we saw that Amendia Serrano suffered an injury that caused her to withdraw from the Katie Taylor rematch. And just like that, there was another quality opponent available at a neighboring weight.
Didn't take long.
That is the virtue of the lower weights in the sport of women's boxing. Those are densely populated, talent-rich divisions, whereas north of welterweight, junior middle, and super middle,
There ain't that many girls to go around. Clarissa Shields dominating those weights. Dominant as she might be, she doesn't have that many options.
not sure what she's going to do if this Natasha Jonas fight collapses. And me not being a fan of this fight, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. There are other fights at junior middleweight that I would rather see Natasha in.
I'm not going to apologize for that.
I see all this talk of boxing fights, they want 50%, Usyk and all this, Tyson's being greedy. And where I'm standing, Usyk, you and your team are worth 30%. You either take it or you leave it. And if you don't want it, go and fight Daniel Dubois at the Copper Box and get a few $1 million. If you want to make some real money, come and fight the Gypsy King. But I will say, for every day from today that you linger, mess around, I'm going to deduct 1% from the 30%. So every day I'm going to deduct 1% until you take it. And if you don't take it, fight Dubois for $2 million. Not a problem. But how in the world could Jews ever offer me a deal? Not possible. TikTok, pussies.
That's the latest from the the Gypsy King, who's now demanding that the Usyk fight happen at a 70-30 split. 70
For years now, Tyson Fury has gone out of his way to present himself as some sort of a Spartan, some sort of a proper fighting man.
less concerned with business and more concerned with boxing. Told a number of interviewers that he's not into money, has no use for it.
You want the other half of an undisputed title fight. A guy who's been a part of several successful pay-per-views. A guy who in Saudi Arabia accepted his end of the deal, accepted it, stood to make a lot of money from it if it wasn't for you.
You actually costed this guy money with your shenanigans so that you could bring the fight over to the UK and offer him little more than 30%.
After you costed him all that money.
Seems more and more like Tyson Fury aspires to create such an inhospitable environment to negotiate this fight. An inhospitable environment to do it.
There's still a chance the Usyk people might accept, because even at 30%, they stand to make more money from that 30% than whatever they stand to make opposite the ring Daniel Dubois.
I feel like there's still a chance they might take it.
There is, though if they don't.
Tyson Fury will take the heat for it. Tyson Fury will take the blame, because how are you expecting the other half of this fight to take a meager 30% after you screwed the pooch in Saudi Arabia?
There are two versions of the story, two versions of what happened in Saudi Arabia. The cover story was that the Saudis couldn't get the venue, the location, whatever it was, they couldn't construct it on time.
That's the cover story. But there's a separate story that indicates Tyson Fury wanted more money than the Saudis were willing to give him. And bear in mind that in Saudi, they offered up more money for the fight than the fight is worth in the UK. But whatever they offered, it wasn't enough for Tyson.
So that you could go back to England and offer up a meager 30%.
Offer that guy 30%. Tyson Fury might be a decent boxer when he's boxing, but the man has no character.
He's a piece of shit.
He's a fucking fraud. I say it all the time. Just because the guy can box a little bit don't mean he's not a fucking fraud. He's still a fucking fraud. And this is yet another glaring example.
Can't be defended.
In any event, this is where we are with this thing. And a big part of the reason I'm still holding out hope is because the Usyk people, they're going to look at that Dubois fight, and they're going to look at this fight, and they might realize that they still stand to make more from this fight than that fight, and this fight is for all the marbles, is for all the belts.
You go into the Dubois fight, the Joyce fight won't be far behind it, or the Hrgovic fight.
You're going to have mandatory challenges up the wazoo if you don't take care of this now.
Some might interpret Tyson Fury demanding a 70-30 split as Tyson creating such an inhospitable environment that the Usyk people wouldn't possibly accept an offer like that, and that would allow Tyson to skate.
Would give him an out to get out of this fight and go fight. Who knows?
That he doesn't really want this thing.
Which is a part of why he's willing to jeopardize the fight itself, making outrageous and outlandish demands.
That's it.
Till most people are interpreting all of this, I'll tell you, if this causes the fight to collapse, if it don't go down, Tyson Fury's marquee value, as it were, it'll take a critical hit.
He's doing this on the premise that For Usyk, fighting him gets Usyk the most money, but the same is true in reverse.
It is. You can't turn around and fight Wilder for a fourth time, or Andy Ruiz for that matter, whose name seems to be in the running. You can't turn around and fight them and make what you'd make with Usyk.
People don't want to see you fight them. They want to see you fight Usyk. And if by some chance you were to fight Francis Ngannou instead of Usyk,
By some chance they would have put that together in place of this, Tyson Fury would lose all credibility, if not most of it, with the boxing community, the boxing fans. And what would his marquee value be then if he cheated them out of an undisputed title fight to go swap punches with an MMA fighter?
that'd be a textbook, Doc.
Not saying that's exactly how this cookie is going to crumble, though if it did happen that way, if you were to skip out on Usyk to fight a lesser fighter,
And because you're the only two champions at this weight,
makes pretty much everyone else there a lesser fighter.
it's a duck.
That's what it would be, and that's what people would call it.
It's a fucking duck.
Men's featherweight news: on the heels of his latest win over Mark Magsayo, Brandon Figueroa hopes to face Vargas next, but sees a lot of great fighters at 126 pounds, most of which aren't on the same side of the street as him, so they may as well be in a different galaxy.
He's not gonna fight them.
In all likelihood, he's going to fight Ray. Hopefully, Figueroa stated during his post-fight press conference when asked about boxing Ray Vargas next. I mean, like I said in the ring, if he wants to fight, it'll happen next. If he doesn't, whoever. I know there's a lot of great champions at 126. There's a lot of contenders. There's a lot of great fighters at 126. So at this point, I'm just so happy, and I just can't wait to get in there with the best of the best and keep winning belts and keep giving fans a great show.
You got Mauricio Lara holding the WBA. He's on the matchroom side of things.
It's one belt.
You've got Luis Lopez holding the IBF. He's on the top rank side of things.
And he's supposed to be boxing Mick Conlon in Ireland real soon.
You have Isaac Dogbay and Robisi Ramirez. They're going to be fighting for the newly vacated WBO title.
Emmanuel Navarrete's old title. That gives Matchroom one belt, top rank two.
Irrespective of the outcomes of those fights, Conlon versus Lopez and Dogbay versus Ramirez.
Brandon's not going to fight any of them.
He's not.
Yeah, you know, I feel like he's a tall, lanky fighter, Figueroa said, in reference to Ray Vargas. He's going to box me, obviously, and my job is going to be the aggressor, as always, you know, come forward, you know, maybe box him a little bit, confuse him, lefty, righty, and just as I do so well, just take the fight right to him. Figueroa's pressure style took a physical toll on the Philippines' Mark Magsayo, who grew tired during the second half of their fight.
I picked Brandon to win that thing, and he delivered.
Though I'd be lying to you if I told you that I'm high on Brandon's boxing. I'm not. Brandon Figueroa is a very big guy for featherweight. He was a big guy for super bantamweight. He's a big guy now for featherweight, as far as featherweights go. But he strikes me as one of these big guys who ain't got the speed or the timing to really manage the distance and keep a smaller fighter at arm's length. He ain't got the accuracy and the sharpness to do that. So what he does is he sells out, bangs in the booth, and in effect, gives up his height.
That he's got lots of it. He's got lots of height, lots of reach, given his prescribed weight, but he doesn't actually use it.
He gives it up in place of timing and accuracy and a judicious, effective jab. What you get from Brandon is volume punching.
Infighting.
Not the best either. For long spells in that fight with Mark Magsayo, you could see that Mark Magsayo was just one clean punch, one clean shot from hitting the deck, from being put away. And Brandon couldn't find the shot. He won the
He
fight,
definitely won the fight.
but he is limited. He's got the kind of base style that you see from some tall, lanky fighters, the kind of base style that works up until it doesn't.
Because he gets hit too much.
One day it all just comes crashing down. Think Jarrett Hurd in the Julian Williams fight. A physically imposing, otherwise durable guy crumbled at the hands of a not-so-big puncher.
That could happen to Brandon over time.
Now he's in line to challenge Ray Vargas for the WBC title.
Ray's coming off a loss to Shockey Foster at 130 pounds. In all likelihood, he will return to 126.
Brandon's is mandatory. He has to fight him. He has to either fight him or forfeit the title.
And you could give Brandon an edge in that thing. Behind his durability and his volume, the fact Ray's coming off a loss.
And he'll be coming down in weight. He tried it at 130. It didn't work out. Now he's going back to 126. And Brandon's waiting for him. I think you could give Brandon an edge in that fight. He might beat Ray Vargas, but that's style.
Brandon gets hit too much.
Not going to have a long shelf life if you don't clean it up. Finally, ahead of the upcoming Gervonta Davis fight, Ryan Garcia on the importance of the Gervonta Davis clash, he says, for me, This is a legacy fight, even if it's not for a title of any kind, not even a secondary one. Because it's being fought at a catch weight of 136 pounds, Gervonta Davis's Mickey Mouse belt isn't on the line.
This is all about bragging rights.
Though, given the sacrifices that Ryan Garcia made in order to get this one over the line, in some ways you can interpret it as a legacy fight for him if he wins his commitment to this fight.
He's committed.
For me, this is a legacy fight, said Garcia to BoxingScene.com. Titles are titles, but this is really a world title fight for me.
It's a big fight.
How big is the question? Is it going to bring in 2 million pay-per-view buys like Oscar De La Hoya says it will, or is that just a lot of hot air? A lot of hyperbole? It's a decent-sized fight, that much we can deduce. Yes, said Garcia when asked if he would like to chase more meaningful bouts as opposed to titles. If there's a belt attached to it, great. In everything, I look for truth. I can steal a title somewhere against somebody who just so happens to hold it, but does that really make me a champion? It doesn't. If you really look for the truth, you'll find it. And for me, I found the truth with Gervonta Davis. He's a great fighter, and that's why I believe this is a world title fight. The problem is, Gervonta's not a world champion.
Nope.
A full world champion at 135 pounds. He never established himself as the most dominant force at that weight.
Been hanging on to a Mickey Mouse belt, a vacant Mickey Mouse belt that he won in the Yuriorkis Gamboa fight.
It was in 2019, over 3 years ago. That belt is little more than a segue to fight for the full title that Vasyl Lomachenko held, and subsequently Teofimo Lopez, then George Kambosos briefly, and more recently, Devin Haney. That's all that Mickey Mouse belt is good for.
And even that's not on the line in this fight, but Ryan says that he views this as a world title fight in the absence of an actual world title.
This fight doesn't crown the best lightweight in the world, or the best super lightweight for that matter. And that is more or less the purpose of those alphabet titles. I mean, that's what they try to do. They try to narrow the talent pool down by process of elimination. That's what these fights are.
What they're supposed to be.
Whereas Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis, that's more about two popular young fighters who have been contemporaries for a while, settling their differences to decide who's the best among them.
Not the best in show, not the best in the division.
Not even saying that it isn't a meaningful fight in some ways. For Ryan Garcia, it definitely is. He views this as a more meaningful fight than a title fight. Maybe for him specifically, that's true. But to the rest of the world,
Those eggs are gonna need more bacon.
you go in there, maybe you knock out Gervonta Davis. Maybe you do that. But in the greatest scheme of things, what does that mean? That doesn't mean you're the best lightweight in the world, because he never proved that. Doesn't mean you're the best super lightweight in the world.
He never proved that either.
You beat this guy, you knock him out, your popularity and marquee value, that'll get a shot in the arm. But your legacy?
You're gonna need to add more to it.
That's not asking a lot, because this is the first meaningful fight Ryan Garcia will have ever had.